Students could write 3 interesting metaphors for homework or form groups to write a short poem which includes certain devices. Another useful activity is for students to make their own glossary of terms which can be updated throughout the unit. To support EALD learners, and indeed most learners, explicit instruction of key vocabulary should be included in every unit. For example, academic language should be taught when writing essays, and speaking conventions taught when doing oral presentations. A hypothetical poetry unit was mentioned earlier. Look at your study guide. Activity 1 asks you to think of some of the key vocabulary students would need to know for certain assessment pieces. Pause the video on this slide and complete the activity. Having an understanding of essential vocabulary also needs to be learnt in context. In other words, you have to relate the vocab to the content. As Newman states, the more you know about a subject, the easier it is to read about it and understand it. Explicitly teaching content and building background knowledge is an essential part of students having a thorough understanding of the language used. The key strategy here is making connections between the essential vocabulary and other words in the text, with students' background knowledge and personal experience. By doing this, the teacher is making it clear how those words embedded in the text relate to bigger, potentially more familiar concepts. You can do this just by asking questions, which requires students to clarify content or make connections. Making connections between vocab, content, and personal or background knowledge can be done very simply, but makes the connections explicit to EALD learners, and again will also benefit other learners. The final area of explicit language instruction that we will quickly cover involves giving feedback. Freeman states that there are 2 ways to give feedback: recast feedback and elicitations. Recast feedback involves identifying what is wrong with student work and rewriting or fixing it for them. The problem here is that students are left to make the jump from their work to the teacher work on their own. Elicitations involve the teacher identifying issues but leaving the student to make the changes. Explicitly state why they need to change it, but don't do it for them. This way the student is supported to make changes but needs to go through the process of making improvements on their own. Freeman states that this is a much more beneficial way of providing feedback for EALD learners. In conclusion, explicit language instruction is so important for EALD learners. We can do this by explicitly teaching essential vocab, relating it to content and students' prior knowledge, and giving explicit feedback. As teachers, we need to support our students to develop English language skills so that they can effectively communicate in standard Australian English.